Welcome to Lead Different.
What if you could leverage cutting-edge AI, not just to grow your business, but to truly elevate humanity? Welcome back to the Lead Different podcast. Today, we are diving into a conversation that will transform how you think about technology, leadership, and purpose. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Raul Hernandez Ochoa. Raul is the founder of Do Good Work and a visionary who helps individuals and organizations optimize AI technology. He brings a wealth of experience in leadership, growth strategy, and operations, having led a company to over $50 million in revenue and landing on Inc. 5000's fastest growing companies. He's here to help business owners and leaders maximize AI and add significant value in the marketplace. In this episode, we explore leveraging AI for human flourishing and revenue generation, critical leadership lessons like trust and empathy, and how to powerfully incorporate faith and values into your business. We discuss Raul's unique journey from banking to entrepreneurship and why his AI agents are literally trained for human flourishing, and why his personal why is to contribute, his how is to make sense of things, and his what is to simplify. Our conversation reveals why using technology for the betterment of humanity and simplifying complex problems are keys to exponential growth. Today, we learn a powerful reminder that consistency over time, leveraging AI for positive impact, and integrating your values into your work are the true drivers of success. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned as we learn to lead different with the incredible Raul Hernandez Ochoa.
Why not leadership? Why not lead different?
Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Welcome to the show, Raul Hernandez Ochoa. I am so excited to have you on the show. Based on that introduction and the conversations we've already had, I cannot wait to introduce you to our audience. Thanks for being on.
Dan, I'm energized to be here.
Man, you are doing something that not a lot of people are doing, and you're in the world of creating AI agents. You're helping people not just use AI, but actually maximize it. And I couldn't be more excited to share what you do with our people. Even in the pre-show conversation, we were talking about the document that I sent over to you to prepare for me to be able to ask you good questions. You mentioned something I never even thought of. You had your AI agent fill it out, but then you had your AI agent interview you for accuracy to make sure that the information in there was good. And then when I look at the document, it's so good. There's so much good in there that I know we're going to use to make sure we ask good questions and keep our audience engaged and give them value. So not only do you teach it, not only do you work with your clients with it, you're a client of it yourself.
Pretty much, yeah, practitioner. My goal isn't really just like to build agents. It's how do we leverage this new technology and compute to add more value in the marketplace? And the fastest and easiest way to do that right now is revenue generating activities. So that's where I'm a practical optimist. So that's where my head's at when I'm using the tech.
I love that. Raul, tell us a little bit of how you ended up here. How does one get to the place where you are helping hundreds of thousands of people use this technology? You have a podcast and you run a company that helps people optimize this technology. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
I think my content might hit hundreds of thousands. Me as a person, maybe hundreds in the history. So I mean, if we look at the first companies that I started in college, from incubators to being in the startups and just building things, testing, and then from there, I was working in my banking job, and then I still wanted to start a software company. And doing that process, I would wake up either 2, 3, 4 a.m., do the business, work on the business for the future, go to work, and then date my now wife in the evening. So I was pretty much 3, 4 a.m. till 9, 10 p.m. on repeat. It's been a process. It's been over a 10-year process. The first company we started did not turn out to be software. It turned out to be a marketing agency that took me out of the day job. Partnered with a guy from Brooklyn. We never met in person back then. This is still in the Skype days, but we created a business, started a company, generated revenue, got me out of the day job. And then from there, we decided that we didn't want to run that kind of business, because as you level up that level of agency, you're essentially managing people and managing versus doing the work. And I really fell in love with the skill set. So I went to support other agencies, and really quickly, within like 3 months, became leadership through acqui-hires, through merger, whatever. Like in the agency world, it's a little different. But I helped teams grow, and I was able to support some thought leaders in the space. And from there, really get exposure to train thousands of people online, like literally thousands of people in private sessions, in online groups, in online webinars. And then from there, one of the teams that I helped grow, we nearly tripled the company in a year. And a mentor at the time told me to write that down. Like, why should I write this down? Like, who cares? He's like, you should write it down. So that became the first book, Productive Profits. And then from there, I started doing consulting and helping people with their operations and growth. So I always marry growth strategy with operations. And from there, that's led to clients and more work, and then honing in all those skill sets, from leadership to being able to now use technology to amplify some of those strategies. So it's not something you just do overnight. It's just a consistency over time.
You know, and I know people are looking at you, Raul, and you look so young, and you're like, man, you've been in it doing this already for 10 years. And that doesn't make you old. But when you look at the people that I normally talk to in the leadership space, they're a lot older than you. One of the things that's been impressive is I've looked into your background and the things that you've done. And you mentioned it a little bit in when you were going through the background. You not only train people on this, you've done this. So before you started Do Good Work, you led a company to over $50 million in revenue. And you landed on Inc. 5000's fastest growing company. How do you do that while doing the day job and then moving into it full scale, and then becoming a partner, becoming a leader in the business? Tell us about that transition.
So that was actually after. So I left the day job and I was doing Do Good Work. And then those were one of the clients. And then I went in-house for a year while I still managed the portfolio of clients. And when I went in-house, that was probably one of the most stressful years of my life. It was a lot of work. It was great. It's a great team. It's probably one of those once in a lifetime things where you have a unique opportunity, unique market fit, and you just are able to collaborate with very special people and very cool people. If you're listening to this, you know who you are. And then also I learned a lot about myself and about leadership. I think that was the biggest thing, because I led a team of 70 people. I helped lead transition of a 200-person org, all online, remote. So I think it was a bigger leadership experience for me than anything, because the principles that I practice there are the principles that I practice with nearly every client.
You led a group, and you talk about leading a group with a lot of people. What's the biggest leadership lesson you learned during that time when you're working with so many people and they're all looking up to you? You're the guy that's leading that team.
I think there's a lot. There's not just one leadership lesson. I think there's, I am young. I have managed people double my age, twice my age under me, but I never really thought of them as under me. It's mostly like they're my collaborators, my peers, or even mentors that I will look up to. So we co-create strategy. The biggest lesson that I learned there may be twofold. The first is trust, being able to trust more openly. And then the second is also leading with stronger empathy, because I'm very stubborn, very hard-headed, very direct and to the point in growth. But then I also started learning more about communication, how I perceive the world, how others perceive the world, how we can mesh those together, and being able to help other people perceive a similar outcome or a similar objective in their lenses, where we can communicate on the same wavelength versus, hey, this is what we're going to have to do. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, get up to speed. So I wasn't a terrible leader, but I just think in retrospect, it's easier to see the character flaws and the things that I had to learn.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about on the show all the time, because we're all about leadership and leading different. We met through Cent Ventures, which is an organization created for Catholic business owners, for us to be able to live our life in conjunction with our faith, so we're not having to live a divided life. One of the things that attracted me to Cent was their motto, and I don't think it's even on their website anymore. It said, "Are you too Catholic for your secular friends, and are you too secular for your Catholic friends?" If you're going to jump on one, pick one and choose that. And I chose to say, you know what, I'm going to be a Catholic first, and then do business with people who align with my values. Not necessarily that they have to be Catholic. We can work with anyone, but how do you incorporate? How have you incorporated? Because as I hear you talk about those values that are important to you, and I see you always saying the word wanted to help, co-create, and work with people. Tell me about how you incorporate your faith into the work that you do, and then talk about the values that are most important to you and to your company.
Well, if you think about it, there's very few things that we can control in life. We can control our thoughts. We can control the people that we associate with, the inputs that we focus on, the energy and attitude that we have right now. We also can control our work, and that's why I call the company Do Good Work. There's very few things that we can control, so we have to control doing good in alignment with something that's greater than ourselves. So it's already baked into the ethos. Those are like a macro approach. Another micro approach would be just when I'm working with clients. Regardless of the walk or life of them, I respect and honor who they are, and I help guide to make sure that they can fully actualize who they are with the talents and the skill sets that either they see or they don't see, or the opportunities that they see or they don't see within their business. So I help highlight and bring that to fruition. On a smaller, even more practical, fun scale, my AI agents, they are all, so this is going to sound a little weird, but there's a framework where you can train who that agent is, and like, here's your identity. It's called a soul. I know it's a little weird. Don't get me. Let's not get all crazy here. But in there, I have it like, your number one goal in life is human flourishing for myself and my clients. So the agents are oriented towards the betterment of humanity.
So you have literally trained the bots, and we won't get weird with the soul of the agent, but let's call it that, because that is what the driving force behind it is to the betterment of people and the people you work with.
Yeah, human flourishing. So there's a lot of philosophical around that. If you look at AI right now, there's different schools of, I would say, I called it the theology of AI, but this is essentially different philosophical takes of decel, accelerationists, humanists. So there's different approaches, and it's fascinating because you're able to understand why some parties and some groups online are pushing for it, why some parties are trying to stop it, and why some parties are looking at it as just a tool, and other parties are looking at it as if it's almost the same level or version as a human. So there's different approaches and different ways. The way that I see it is that it's something that we can work with in order to accomplish our goals for the betterment of humanity.
I love that. The betterment of humanity. So I'm gonna talk about your YOS discovery, since it's just so much a part of your language, Raul, and I want to make sure we discuss that. Anybody that's listening, if you're a former Why Not Leadership client, or one of the thousands of people that's taken the YOS discovery through me, you know that every client, everyone that we bring on the podcast, we have them go through the assessment. And Raul came back, not surprisingly, when I look at the impact, the emphasis you have on making a difference, that your why came back as contribute, someone who wants to make a difference, make a positive impact in the lives of others. You're even training your bots to help human flourishing. That is such a contribute trait. So that's your why. Your how came back as make sense. And what we know about people with the how of make sense is that they're great problem solvers. They're really good at taking in lots of information, very quickly processing and coming up with solutions. So one of the things that you mentioned is one of your leadership challenges is when people can't figure things out, you tend to be probably a very quick problem solver. Makes sense. People tend to do that, process information quickly. And the challenge that you have, and I share that trait with you, is sometimes we get impatient with people who don't get it as quickly as we do.
I used to, yes.
Yeah, and so it's something we have to work on. No, that's really good. And then your what came back is simplify. So if we look at these three traits, your why is why you do what you do. Why you do what you do is to make a difference. How you do it is by solving problems quickly and effectively and coming up with solutions to problems. And then your what is what we say, it's what you deliver, what the world can count on from you. And for you, that came back as simplify. which means that you deliver things that are simple and easy to use. And I can imagine, and by the way, people that I have met throughout my career, and like I said, I've helped over 3,000 people go through this discovery. People with the why of simplifying, anywhere in their top 3, tend to be really successful, because you take things that overwhelm most people and you can break it down into simple terms that they can use. And I imagine that that's what a lot of your clients come to you with, because the AI world is huge. There is so much out there. And I can see Raul being the guy that says, okay, here, let me help you contribute. What's the problem that you're having? Let's figure out what the problem is that you have, and let's come up with a simple solution that you can implement in your company so that you can 10x, 100x your revenue, or what it is that you're trying to do. How does that sound, Raul?
Yeah, no, I know. Your thing was disc, so I reverse engineered it. But yeah, that sounds really in alignment. Yeah, a lot of people come to me for growth, and I work with them to simplify simple habits or protocols that they can run, and then again we bake in AI into the business model so they can do more and add more net new value.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm seeing. So look, I'm in the coaching and consulting business. So when we talk about consultants and agencies that are building models right now that are already expiring, what's the assumption that most of them, and let's say most of us, don't realize that we're pricing against?
I mean, we'll have to say this with like a bit of candor and truth. So, and Dan, I would love to see your expression here too on the screen, but a lot has changed since February, since we got Opus 4.6. I think that was a big cutoff, like a big change. So anyone telling you that they're an expert and they've know it all, like is it's not true, unless they're actually in the research labs that have been working with it for years. Again, I'm looking at more, what are the fundamental truths that always stay? What are the things that are never leaving? So if we think about this first in frameworks, and then we can kind of dissect, where does this technology bake into the framework? Because if you because I honestly, I would days and weeks just studying 3 hours a day, consuming content, figuring out. And that's not like on the exaggerating, that's on the low end. It would be 3 to 6 hours a day, legitimately consuming that much content to figure out, where does this play? How does my business change? How does this change my clients? How are we able to adapt? What's the future like? What is the middle, like the interim going to feel like? And if you do that, you can kind of get into a spiral of a black hole, because it's like, oh crap, like everything's going to take over, or it's not. And you might just dismiss it as nothing, which a lot of people unfortunately are doing that, because you don't know. The thing with this technology is that you don't know the actual capabilities unless you actually spend money. Most people try it for free or the $20 a month, and they're like, oh yeah, whatever. That's not, I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, like that's not how it is. Like I've been spending thousands of dollars since it came out in 22, 23. And obviously I didn't spend that much on day one. I did like what everyone else did, just open up your ChatGPT and see what's going on. But then through the APIs, I've accidentally spent like $700,000 in like an hour. So like you start figuring out things as you start leveraging the technology. But unfortunately it is a pay to play, or fortunately it is. But once you see the capabilities and what's on the other side, it really kind of stuck me like, what are the things and the principles that aren't changing? What are the things that are changing? Where do we control those changes, and what can we actually do? So if we look at a business model, what is an actual business model? A business model comprises of your value proposition. What do you do for people? Your actual customers, or your like customer segments, how you reach those people, how you keep the relationship. Then on the back end of the business model is like, what are the key partners or vendors or activities you do to deliver value? And then you have your cost structure. How do you make money? Your pricing, your offers, your go-to-market. And then how do you like pay for things, expenses, cost structure? Like what are the things that happen on the back end? So if you look at those principles and you just like, okay, in the beginning, AI is like, there's 3 levels to it. The first is you're using that like copy and paste in either Claude, Anthropic, or GPT. And that's fine. But that's level 1. You're like, okay, cool. I'm able to do some things faster. Great. Time savings. That's good. Level 2 is more like, okay, cool. Now you're actually building, maybe you're using workflows or some sort of automations with AI. It's like, okay, I'm able to do things without me being there, and they're going faster. And then level 3 is like full autonomy. And like, oh, I have actual agents that are doing things for me on my behalf without me being here. But you've programmed that in. So this isn't to say like these things think on themselves. They're programmed in. Even what we call a heartbeat when they wake up, either once an hour or once every 15 minutes, that's a pre-programmed thing. So again, these are different terminologies, but I'm simplifying it. where does AI actually play a role here? And the way that it adds value, it's twofold. The first is obviously time savings. You want to look at what are the things that suck in your business? How do you actually like either have someone else do it, a technology do it, or an AI do it? Like that's the fun part now. It's always been the same principle. Either you discard the action, you give it to someone else, you give it to a tool. Now the tools and the giving it to someone else kind of are meshing in. So you can actually like leverage that. But that's levels, like that's like starting ground. Then it's level 2. Now that you have some time back, let's say, I think Goldman Sachs said that AI can take away like 25% of people's workload across white collar. That's cool. Who cares? You just don't want time back. I think one of the things that you're seeing is that people are saying, oh, I'm just going to replace my team with AI, or I'm just going to do this. If you're thinking only in terms of replacement and of time savings and cost savings, you're lacking imagination. Okay. That is like the starting point. That is like net zero. Like that's like that's the start of the race. If that's all you can think about, then literally this tool will replace the work that you do. Okay.
Right.
Where it doesn't replace is when you start looking at what is the net new, net meaning didn't exist before, new that is possible that you couldn't do before. Either you didn't have the time, the team, the investment capital,
right,
or the know-how. Because the know-how, you can start figuring things out. If you know the outcome of what you're trying to build and you know what good looks like and you've actually done it by hand, but then you didn't know maybe one little nuance, or you didn't know how to connect one tool to another, or maybe you just had a convoluted tool that could then like you can solve that know-how. Not to say that you can start in a new field that you've never been into. I think this only capitalizes for every consultant and these strategists who actually has done the thing hundreds of times by hand. The only way I'm able to do what I'm able to do right now is because I've manually labored and know what it actually takes.
Right.
So it actually like compounds my intellect. It compounds my IP. Anyway, so net new value is looking at what are the things we couldn't do otherwise, and what are the things that we can now do either for our business and or our clients that we couldn't do otherwise. Right now, and I know this might sound like, oh, it's an exaggeration, the guy just talks. I can show the proofs and the receipts. When we were running the agencies and some of my clients in the agencies, things that we would charge $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $5,000 a month, $25,000 packages, I can now do in 3 hours because I've trained specific skill sets for execution and deliver that value for clients in days, not weeks, to help them go further to done finished. Because my clients, they don't care what tools I use. Most of your clients don't care what tools you use. They don't care you're on StreamYard. They don't care that you're using ClickUp. They don't care that you're using Google Docs or WordPress. Like they don't care. They care about their problems and their solutions. So if you're able to get them to done finished faster at higher quality, and then you can look at, okay, what does that mean? I need to discount my prices. That's another question we'll get to. But if you're able to do that and you're able to actually, hey, I wish I could do this with my clients, but then you're now able, hey, wow, I can actually do it with my clients. You're working at the speed of your thoughts. And I've never felt more invigorated with work. And it's addicting because now I literally work at the speed of my thinking. And then here is my cold brew to support my brain to continue to pump, to continue to have because when you're burning a lot of calories when you think a lot. But anyways, that's a side tangent. So that's what I want to think about is like, what is the net new value? And also in your business model, where's the fastest way to add value? Are there key activities that you need to be, that you wish you could do, but you couldn't do, but now you can do? And you're like, well, I don't want to spend $200, $500, $1,000 a month. Hey, at this point, I'm going to rephrase Dan Kennedy, where he said that the one who spends the most to acquire a customer will always win. I think that applies here. The one who can spend the most effectively, who can make an ROI on compute, will win. Now, I could be contradicted and be told wrong. I'm just seeing it firsthand.
Right.
I'm seeing it first. The more I spend, the more I burn tokens in the right way. Obviously, you're going to learn and you're going to do a stupid flop like I did and just waste API credits like $700 in like 15 minutes. You're like, oh crap, that's not good. You're going to have that moment.
Right.
But think about it as like, how much does tuition cost right now?
Right.
A ridiculous amount of money. Just pretend this is your new tuition. Just pretend this is school. I've spent tuition on my API credits.
That makes sense. So for somebody who's not in that world, I mean, I love when you talk about being able to do work that used to take you weeks and months in hours. and deliver. And when you brought up the question, because that pricing is important, right? Is there the same value? How do you price versus someone, if you hire an agency and they say, okay, we've got to do all of these things and it's going to take us X amount of weeks, 6 weeks to get it all done, get all the information compiled, come back to you with a recommendation. And you're saying, hey, I've got AI bots and I've programmed them to do this work and we can get that done in 3 hours. The pricing question comes up. Does that mean you're a lot less expensive because you're taking less time? It's quick. How do you maintain the value?
That's the trap. That's the trap.
Tell me about the trap and how you're dealing with it.
Well, I'm not dealing with it because I'm still pricing to value. And Dan, I want you on the screen. I need you to see your face, bro. So a few things here. It's not about, so anytime you talk about pricing on value, by the way, these value price conversations, I think we've been having since like the 1200s, if I recall correctly. It was before even Adam Smith. Like a lot of even theologians were talking about what is value, how does the market price value. Anyways, so we've been talking about this for like over, I think 800 years. So what is value? How do you deliver value? What do you do with price? So you don't just say, oh, my bots can do it, because then that cheapens the product. Again, clients don't care. I'll give you real examples. What I'm doing, clients are doing, and friends are doing.
Right.
All right. So let's talk about what I heard in the marketplace from a friend. His agency was like, oh, we're actually going to give you an AI discount. That agency literally told the end client, we're going to give you a discount because we're using AI. That agency just told the marketplace, we innovated and created something new, but we're going to actually discount our innovation for you so that we can win the business. That's competing on price. That is going to go to zero.
Right.
Don't do
race
that.
To the bottom.
Don't do that. Another thing that friends are doing, and I'll talk to you more about, like, I'm going to go from the outside, what friends, agencies, markets are doing, clients, and then myself. Another a friend, what they're doing is their AI is delivering about 70 to 80% of the work. 70 to 80% of the work. But the last touch, the last mile is concierge human feel. They can only do that through their positioning in the marketplace, who they're selling to, and the outcomes that they deliver. They are charging 10 to 40 grand a month. I'll rephrase that. 70% of the work that they're doing is done by agentic workforce. The last mile is concierge, based on who they are selling to, the problems that they are solving, and the outcomes that they are delivering. That's called perception. That's called value. And they're able to charge a premium for it because of the problems that they're solving. Because it doesn't matter how you solve the problem. What matters is, are you creating net new value for the marketplace where they can see or tangibly feel an ROI, not where they have to be convinced that there's ROI, that it is obvious, it's stupid dead obvious that is the return on investment. So what am I doing? What are clients doing? I've had other clients as well, like one client right now. We're in the process, just submitted a proposal. Like, they're in the process right now. And this is not a one-off story. I've had multiple stories of this, and I can't promise this for everyone listening to this, but this is not a one-off. This happens consistently, where we're working on some of the biggest deals in their business.
Right.
And how do I take clients who are charging minimum, like a small amount? I'm actually embarrassed to say some of the recurring recurring fees that they were charging, but it's going to sound like an exaggeration. But how do we go from them charging, oh, we were charging like $250 an hour? How do we change from that to, oh, we're actually almost going to close a 6-figure deal here? Or how are we going to close our first multi-6-figure deal here? Obviously, my clients are, one, experienced. Some of them are in consulting, some of them are agencies. They're, one, experienced. They have a track record. They actually care. They actually know the work. They've done the work hundreds of times, thousands of times on like manual labor. Second, they are not like new, fresh off the block. They're not inventing something new. They're actually compounding their intellect. And then the third, they actually care about the end client goal. So they're always going to over deliver. And they may be one of the few in the world that can actually do what they do.
Yeah.
So when we do that, all I do is work with them to rephrase and repackage their positioning, repackage their values in the marketplace, give the end client optionality to work with them. And then we work on that with negotiation and then the sales process. And then from there, it leads to this. And this is because they have great relationships. Again, they've done the work. They have a great, a great history, a track record. But this is actually happening right now behind the scenes. And to be honest with you, these are some things that you wouldn't imagine, like what that kind of offer, a marketing offer, leadership transformation offer, a sales offer, it's not all have to be based on technology.
Yeah.
So that's the key thing is there. Even for myself, some of the things that I'm doing with clients, like my clients don't care. They actually were like, well, what are you doing? Because it would actually feel a little weird if you're working with someone who's trying to be cutting edge, who isn't actually practicing what they're doing.
Right.
What I'm doing right now, I'm helping one of my, again, clients and friends mix in because like you develop such a good relationship.
Sure.
But this is a good friend. And then we're working on something because he's got a really big opportunity. They're in the insurance world. And we're looking at how do we build out a go-to-market agentic system to help them scale. And this is dramatic because there's a recur model. There's a big approach and a big upside. But even the way that I'm pricing it, I'm not going to price it. Oh, it's going to cost you API credits here. It's going to be based on outcomes. So there's 4 different ways that you can charge. I wrote about this and I wrote a whole essay and I have a whole podcast on this. It's called the net new value quadrant. So you can look that up in Substack. But I go into more detail around all these and I give some more examples. But that's the way that I'm thinking about it is what is the outcome? Should I charge based on units of economy? Should I charge based on leveraging my IP? Should I charge just based on the pure outcome? Or should I just charge based on a base plus fees? So again, these principles don't change, but how you position and how you leverage the technology changes. And if you do what I'm hopefully preaching to everyone is that you need to have this new technology part of your business model. Because the unit of economics will change, your cost structure, your margins instantly will change. It's a margin play, but there's also the net new value will change for your clients and your retention will change for your clients. And I can tell you more stories there.
You've mentioned it a few times. Define net new value because I want to make sure we get a good understanding of what that means. It's something that's created, that's new. But tell us your definition, Raul, because that's something you can price on is net new value.
Yeah, something that you couldn't do before. So I'll tell you bluntly what I do. A lot of the work that I've done in the past is the consulting work. It's the structure. Here's everything that we need. Here's the protocol. Here's the growth strategy. Here's exactly how we're going to do. Who's going to talk to, what we're going to do. I've also baked in what I've done even for publicly traded companies of finding the right prospects based on where the prospect is at, based on the pain points that they're actually facing right now, based on insights and a plethora of research to say, hey, you should talk to this person. They just went through this actual scenario 3 months ago, or they just hired this person, or they just got the series round, or they just had this situation happen, or they have 6 locations that are just getting, there's multiple variables, like in one case in manufacturing, like with the tariff situations, like who do we go after? Like here's who you go after based on the actual situation. So your outreach becomes more value add. I've condensed and systemized that. We're now on a drop of a dime. I can find prospects for any client in any industry. And we can have high quality referral partners, prospects, and warm network. I mean, lead gen agencies that I worked with would charge $5-10 grand a month just for that. And this is not just an Apollo list that you just download and get. These are like, here's the exact person, name, email, phone number if we want it. Here's why you're reaching out. Here's the situation. Here's 3 other people in the company. Here's how you're going to triangulate your way in. Here's some value prop positionings about it. Here's an account go-to-market plan. Like, all these things that you can do. I couldn't do that before by myself. I mean, if I were to do research on that, it's like 10 hours a company.
Yeah. No, and I love what you're saying. There's a couple of things that I wrote down. One is, one of the things that I'm hearing is, and one of the things that when the people I work with sometimes are trying to get out of the business of trading time for money. You're talking about trading value for money versus time, because no matter how good you are, and you talked about it, I've been doing this for a long time. There's a ton of experience that I have that I do, but I can only give so much. So there are only so many working hours in a day. So I can only give so much to a client. So what you're talking about is scaling to the point where, and you said a phrase earlier that I really want to get into. You said to work at the speed of your thoughts. That's an amazing thought. And I like the way you framed it, because in the past, we've been limited by technology or our capacity or our team's capacity to work at the speed of our thoughts. You have found a way to do that.
Tired. I get tired.
Yeah, we all get tired, right? Thinking burns calories, as you said earlier. And we're, when you talk about spending 3 to 4 hours, 3 to 6 hours a day learning in order to get that information that you need in order to create the net new products that you're creating, it takes a lot of energy. So you're creating. Tell me what's it feel like? We used to call it flow. And what's it feel like to work at the speed of your thoughts?
It's exhilarating. It's amazing. It's almost like, I'll give you a simple example, then I'll give you something else that's actually useful that runs every night for me. A simple example: an agency friend of mine reached out, was like, "Hey, we're hiring for this position. Can you help me introduce or know who in your network would make sense for this?" And I was just getting off a call. I was doing some work and I saw her email. In the past, I would like, okay, I'll save that for Friday. I'll save that for later. Then I have to block out some time on my calendar. Then I have to look up at my emails or think, and then my LinkedIn. And then from there, figure out. I literally said, hey, I have my AI agent. Like, so the way that I structured it is I have this AI COO. And then from there, we've spawned off 9 different agents for security, revenue, sale, like the whole 9. So I talked to my main HQ. Well, I know it's an agent, but I call him my guy. Anyways, I talked to my guys like, hey, dude, can you read that email? Can you scourge my LinkedIn? Because I have everything locally. Can you just review all my LinkedIns? Who would be the top 3 candidates that I should send over to her? Draft an email, let me know. Cool. I got to work and then I just started doing my other work. The email drafted, shipped it within 5 minutes. And then that actually got her conversations. And those were relevant people that were in alignment with the role that she was hiring for. And I did that in 20 seconds of thought, 5 minutes of like execution for the agent to think, send it to my Gmail, and then from there I shipped it out.
So it actually created a draft in your Gmail that you could proof and then send out.
Yeah, with the actual people. Here's the people. Here's their LinkedIns.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, we were just talking. I was on back and forth on LinkedIn with Joe Coleman today. He posted something about AI. Is at what point do you stop using AI so much that it's obvious to everybody that you're using AI, and especially noticeable in social media? And aside from the easy blunders that are easy to catch, where they leave the prompt in their post, right, that says, here's a version that your audience might like, and then they post it, and then later on they go back and edit it. So it's obvious they were using AI. At what point, how do you maintain your authenticity? And I love the way what you just described was something that I've done at a much more elementary level. Just open up my AI when I'm driving and give it ideas, because as thoughts come to me, I'm like, oh, write this down, create an outline. Let's make sure I go back. You're saying there's that part. That's elementary, Dan. You can actually connect it to your LinkedIn. It can go through your LinkedIn, actually find the people that are the best.
You can't connect it to LinkedIn. You have to download your LinkedIn.
Right. Well, that's what I mean.
There's limitations to these things, but you can actually connect it and hook it up.
Yeah, connect it so that actually looks for those people, finds them, puts them in your email, drafts an email. That's so much more. That takes off a lot of manual and me involved work. And now you're doing the proofing, right? So at what point does, what point, I think when you talk about that previous business model with your client who does concierge level customizing.
They're a friend. So they're actually a friend, not a client. So that was the example for a friend doing that.
Yeah. So that friend is doing something that at the end, that's where the real value comes in. That's the human-centered touch that happens at the end. I don't think you can ever get rid of that, can you?
No, so you asked 2 questions. At what point does it become obvious you're using it? That question is good, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Once you start using it and you know how to use it and you know how to leverage it, everyone's using it, who cares? The key thing is, how do you align so that it's a thought partner, not thinking for you? So where you're not delegating judgment. And this answers your second question. What are the things that last? I wrote about this in the services stack. So I wrote that article, and that article took off, and thankfully it's generated business. But that article took off because when you dive deep into this, you can get to a point like, oh crap, what do I do? What are we on? And there's 5 layers to it. So the first layer is like admin work, like some hands execution. That's done. I redesigned my website in passing for fun in like half a day. I was doing my work, like I just do this, do that, do this. And then the whole website, because the way that I've structured it, it's my agents are connected to over 3,000 documents of my thinking, over 577 of my actual writings. All the conversations that we have, everything's indexed, everything's like cumulatively. So when I told it, hey, design this thing, because they came out with a new designer, revamp my website, tell me what you think. I did some copy editing, but like, could you tell that my website is AI? You can't, because it's written in my tone. I also have trained skills. There's multiple skills that I've trained it in. I think I have no clue, maybe 30 skills, 40 skills. But these are all based on actual workflows and things that I've manually done so that it knows the standard. But, and here's a big but, and I had a friend on the pod, more like on the metaphysics of intelligence, that AI is not intelligent. That was his stance. And it's true. However, you don't delegate your own judgment. For example, your agents, my agents can say, hey, we should do this. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. But based on what I know, I think we should go in this direction. Here's how we're going to do this. Here's why we're going to do it. This is what I think is right. And you leverage your own intellect and reasoning for the intelligence, because you have to remember, I think we spend, I don't know the actual number, but I think we spend close to like $1 trillion to build this stuff. Just think about that for a second. But your brain is organic matter and it can still reason further than it. Can the AI think faster, more capable, and more at a lower compute? Yes, but we've had to like invest almost $1 trillion for it. The other cool thing, like my son got like a scratch, or they cut themselves because they keep falling and they keep scabbing, but our skin heals itself.
Right.
How much do we have to invest for AI or some sort of technology to start healing its own self? That's incredible. We start to like minimize humanity, and we're like, oh, we should just like outsource our thought. No, you have the capability to reason through this reality. You have the capability to understand truths in their principle form. And if you don't do that, then yeah, AI is going to actually reason better than you. But you have to take the time to think about your own thinking. That's the only competitive advantage. That plus relationships.
Man, and that's the human element that you can never replace. And so what do you say to people, Raul, when as you're literally doing that? Because we talked about in the pre-show, you've got a team, you've got 1 assistant and 9 AI agents that you've trained to do a lot of things. You just showed us an example of something that your COO did for you, or your guy did for you. Tell us about the types of agents that are possible, especially, I know that a lot of consultants invest in either a COO or somebody who just kind of runs the back office, and you've got that in an AI agent. How does that work, and how do you then use the human capital that you now have more capacity for? If you maintain, let's say this is a friend or somebody that has been with you since the beginning, so you want to keep them on board, how do you maximize that talent now that you've got the bots doing a lot of the work and the agents?
Yeah, so I wrote about this in the craft. What does the craft agency look like in the future, where it's essentially your team is no longer going to be junior, fortunate or unfortunate, but it is going to be a level of high-level practitioners who are excellent at their work, T-shaped, can go deep, but then they're also, below them is a layer of agents to support and amplify their work. And I think it's going to be the return of the founder-led approach, the return of smaller teams at higher caliber, the return of where I've always been on this stance when we're designing agencies and designing profit models, like north of 60% profitability. I don't understand why some people are still settling for like 10, 15% net profit. Like it's not the game, man. So that's on like the practical side. But what is actually possible? The agents that I have all adhere to specific parts of the business. I got sales, I got my marketing, I got my interviewer for content, I got the scheduler based on the content. I have one that operates and manages my database based on all of our thoughts. I have no clue how many documents we have in there right now. But every time I talk to it, it has like, oh, we've over-indexed like on 3,100 documents now. Because the way that I have everything set up is that memory is a big issue with agents. It now remembers literally everything because I've used a compressor, and I'm able to never lose fidelity, or even when chats die off and it's like, oh, you have to compress this. That never happens to me because we have everything redocumented. What's practical? Like, what are the things that are actually useful for me? Every day I work off of a daily note. So I replace my CRM and I replace my operating system into Obsidian. And I have everything in there where works for me, right? Right. This could also work for teams. We can change the tools. What matters is there's a database of information. There's access to that database. There's compute and intelligence that you're driving. There's skill sets that are developing through that. There's specific habits and executions that they're doing. And then you're focusing on value. Right. So I work off of a daily note, and it tells me based on my own trainings, like my 80-20 day trainings, how do I actually execute a day? It's all structured in there. You, Dan, are in there. I have all notes about you, know exactly what to do and what to say. I have notes of what to do upcoming for my next calls. Every night, I have my product agent or my client product agent dream about my clients. What are the calls that we had? Where do they need? What is the net new value we can create? And it starts finding ways to create net new value, presents it to me. I review, we look what we can do. And then when I have the calls with clients, everything's preset, meaning the agendas are ready. And I also know, like, here's where we can go deeper. But I also know intrinsically there's some nuances. I don't just follow it blindly. I know where the client's at. I know some of the nuances, some of that emotional feel, some of the key things that we need to work through, or some of the deals that we need to massage in order for them to go further. What else is practical here to share?
Yeah. Well, I would love to, I'm going to ask you this because you're an expert, and I thank you so much for being on and learning so much, taking so many notes. I've got a couple of friends who are just so big into the AI era. Would you take us into kind of, you told us a little bit earlier, what are the different levels? I imagine you're operating at level 4. But somebody said to me, what's the Manus AI does a lot of work for you, right? And they said, ChatGPT is like your friend that knows everything. Manus is like your friend that knows everything, but then can actually produce stuff for you. Well, take us through the different levels that there are in terms of taking advantage of AI and where most people are, and where you're operating and where you would like to see, where can people maximize their use of AI?
I mean, so level 0 is like you're not leveraging the technology. I think you just have to jump and just try it. Level 1 is where you're using, like what you mentioned, like the Manuses or the chat GPTs, and you're bolting it onto what you're already doing, which is fine. That's completely fine. You're copying and pasting, you're using their cloud service, you're using Manus, it's building websites for you. That's great. Level 2 is now it's actually in the workflow where entire workflows, either for delivering or for executing, support you. And this actually increases your margin, like your actual business margin. Level 3 is now you have some sort of autonomy where it's preemptive or it's proactive based on your dictation. Like what I just mentioned, dream mode, net new value mode for clients. For me, planning the day. For me, like all the habits that I do, and I'll leverage AI to help me go further.
Right.
So it's more proactive in that way, and it also takes actions on my behalf. I have different heartbeats and different approaches, and I'm not actually doing anything on OpenClaw. Everyone knows what that is. It's a little bit insecure for me right now, but the way that I structured everything, it's under I just use Terminal and I have everything running for me. So that would be level 3, and then there's a beyond level that where it's now taking actions without you being there, but those are more pre-prompted, but that might be a little dangerous because it may still produce crap because you're not there to review. So I think the best practitioners that I've personally have seen or have like seen what they're doing have human in the loop.
Makes sense. Yeah. Man, Raul, this is it's mind blowing. I can't wait to have the conversation. There's a guy I play golf with on Saturdays, and he's just he's going to be so excited to see this interview. I might actually move you up in the publishing, just so I can get this out sooner. Let's talk about, the questions we ask everybody, and man, we could talk on AI a lot more, but I think these are related. I always like to ask these questions to figure out what is your why not moment, give me the why not moments that you've had. So let me ask you this. Why not stay? Why didn't you stay in the agency world?
Well, in a way I did stay, but in the other way is like I just wanted to continue building.
Mm-hmm. So you founded Do Good Work, and you're building something that, again, talking about leading different. This is different. Let's talk about Do Good Work. Where the name comes from. Tell us the origin of the name and how it's how you live it every day.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we have I think up to 6 or 7 things that we can actually choose and be in control of. Mm-hmm. One of them, in my belief, is the work that we do. And if we're going to die, we might as well do good work.
Mm-hmm. While you're here, right?
Yeah, why not maximize?
So you did something a lot of people don't do with productive profits. You gave it away. Why?
So the book, I either give away the book or I give away most of my books in the beginning for promo. Yeah. Honestly, what matters to me is information should be free. I used to do like gate locking of information, but I really don't believe that matters. All the information should be free because information and knowledge needs to be free. What matters is how do we actually get the output? Transformation is something that people should charge for and pay for. Mm-hmm. But information, honestly, like even now with AI, like if you think you have a proprietary way, that's great. AI can figure it out. The key thing is, what's your proprietary way to get transformation?
Yeah. What is the realignment, Raul?
So a lot of the things that I work on with clients is if you're still stuck in the old business model and you're still trying to bolt on AI on top of it versus actually having it part of the business model, I think you're unfortunately going to be scaling a broken business model, which is going to leak. Proposals are going to stall. You're going to see that in your profit. So I work through realigning what needs to happen in your business model so that you can be an aligned founder to your impact, to the work that you do, to with your clients, and to like the actual overall ethos of your company. So they're actually working on things you care about. A lot of the clients that I work with, their work is their signature. It's not just some asset that they're building because they want to pump it and then they want to sell it. Some do that, but in reality, if you're in the game, the longer you're in the game, the more like this is a really good opportunity. It's actually becoming a mirror of the work that I do, and the work that I do is my signature. So they want to continue growing it, and that has to be in alignment to their mission, to the impact that they make, that the team that they work with, to how they help their team grow and how they help their clients go further. And I just help them layer in. Now, like it's all growth oriented, but how do we actually leverage AI ops to help them grow further?
Well, the other thing you do, and that I really appreciate is your current consulting model. It's profitable, it's working, but you're still rebuilding it. Why?
There's no way to stay stagnant. Like new offers, new opportunities. I think the key thing is, what is the thing that I and only I have the unfair advantage? I know two things: growth and operations. And I know how to help build people up. Maybe those are the three things that I like uniquely have. So then how do I maximize that? There's multiple ways to maximize that. But right now what I'm seeing, and this is actually something that I'm seeing in the foresight in like the next 3 to 5 years. Yeah. I'm early. I might sound like a crazy idiot, but I think a lot of business models right now are expiring. And I want to help as many people to realign sooner rather than later, because the later is a force. Like they'll be forced to.
You won't have a choice, right?
Yeah, and then when you'll be stuck there, you will be pricing to the bottom.
That's fantastic, man. What's been your biggest why not moment? I'm sure you've had a few. You've been in the business for a while. Love the fact that you're a deep thinker and a deep studier of this, but you're able to make sense of it and simplify it for us and share it with us in a way that I think everybody's getting value out of this. What's your biggest why not moment, Raul? That we've talked about a few things, but so a time in your life when you said why not, and you're so glad you did.
I don't know. There might be a lot. Maybe when I did the half Ironman, the 70 miles. You would think that I would be doing a lot of triathlons, but I did maybe a sprint, which is very short, and then I did an Olympic, and then I'm like, oh, why not just do the half Iron? And then I trained for almost a year, then I did it, but I did it on sheer willpower. I mean, if you look at me, I'm not like the smallest guy, and I finished. I crossed the finish line. So that was a labor of it's what did I say when triathlon training? It's a romance with pain.
Yeah. What is it that, that's a great, you're successful, you're running a great business, you've got a family. As a veteran of 8 marathons, I know training takes time. Is that a motivation for you to be more efficient in your work so that you could take the time to do that training and still spend time with your family and still run a business? How did you balance that? And how long ago was it, by the way?
I finished that last year. And then the question was like, why not do a full? I think I have to pace myself and think like it has to be a bigger reason to do a full, because it's a lot of training. I have to work out every day. It's part of who I am. If I don't do it, I don't feel well. Plus a lot of the work that I do, you have to let that energy out, and I have to lift heavy things and push myself every day, because it's part of who I am, and it makes everything easier. So it's not like it's like brushing your teeth. Why brush your teeth or why shower? Like I think you should shower and brush your teeth at least once a day. And for some of you listening, maybe twice a day. That's a joke.
In case the kids are listening, right?
yeah. But yeah, it's just I like pushing myself and being alive.
Yeah. It's the Marines used to say, pain lets me know I'm alive, right? You feel that strength, you push yourself. Tell us, this is good because as I'm listening to you, you're obviously someone who's been very successful and doing a lot of good things. What's your morning routine like? Is there a set, or is your AI telling you, okay, when it wakes up in dreams and says, Raul, this is what you need to do today? But is there a routine that you stick to that helps you be successful?
No, I don't have AI tell me the routines. I've done this for years. I do have it help me do the workout plans and help me like calibrate nutrition. Like that's a no-brainer. But so the morning routine has fluctuated in terms of wake up times. Obviously, some days are good, some days are harder. But I wake up early. One of my clients, and it's funny because she's a Christian client. She's like, oh wow, you wake up at the butt crack of dawn. Like, yeah, I wake up at the butt crack of dawn. Wake up, morning prayer, meditation, and like contemplation, and then from there, I usually go straight to working out. And then during the workouts, I like to listen to something motivational because it's part of like it does change who you are. And I can share more stories about that. The music, and then I just work out, push, eat. If I take my son to school that day, I take my son to school, and then I start work, and then I do 80-20 for the day. Then I work with clients, get on calls, and then from there I do build up mode. I have all this training, by the way. If you look up 80-20 training, Raul Hernandez Ochoa, it should show up on Google. It's a free 42-minute training of how I've structured days to help people become more effective. And this is before the days of AI, where I would help team members who are working 8 to 12 hours condense their days to 6 to 8 hours, fluctuating depending on who they want to be and in alignment to their goals. So I just follow what I teach. Obviously, some days are harder on the wake ups, and some days I do decide to sleep in because I need to sleep. And we have a newborn, so it's life is full of vibrancy and love.
And probably not a lot of sleep. How old is the newborn?
He's a month.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So our COO is dealing with the grandbaby who's I think a month, right at about a month. So I know all about that. 80-20, that's something I use a lot. I talk about it probably differently than you do. I believe we should spend 80% of our time doing stuff we're good at and we love to do, and spend as little amount of time as possible doing those things that we're not good at, that we don't do well, and that we don't love to do. And that's where we're using agents, that's where we're hiring people, and that's where everybody else comes into play. Do the stuff that you're really good at, the stuff that really energizes you. What is 80? And if you could give us a condensed version of your 80-20 definition.
Yes, exactly. That's Pareto's principle.
Yeah.
80% of the results come from 20% of the inputs. It's your job to figure out what's that 20%.
That's perfect. All right. What is something that we need to know that I haven't asked you about, Raul? I'd really want to make sure we don't miss anything, because you're just a brilliant mind, and we've really enjoyed learning from you today. What is something we need to make sure we ask you about?
It's light roasted beans, 300 grams, cold brewed, 16 hours, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, and then you get this concoction, and it is very helpful. So that is my daily drink. If it's I think it's grams, up to 250 to 300 grams of coarse grinded coffee overnight for 16 to 18 hours, and 1/4 whole milk. And don't put the 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract in the cup. Put that in the entire cold brew after you're done the next morning, and fill it up with a bunch of water, and you should be off to the races.
Man, and I'm glad we're recording this, because there's a lot of technical stuff that I think the coffee people in the audience are going to get that. Raul, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, to learn from you today. I can't wait to follow up with you and see where this takes us. You are doing good work. I want to make sure I say that, and I really appreciate you sharing your talent and your wisdom with us on the Lead Different podcast. I want to remind our viewers, if you're watching, if you're listening, if you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends, because we want to make sure we get the message out about Raul's amazing technology. Where can people get a hold of you, Raul?
Best place is the website. That is dogoodwork.io. That is dogoodwork.io, input, output. And from there, you'll be able to either book a call or hit me up on LinkedIn.
That's fantastic. Raul, what do you say we end the show on that note?
Let's do it. Dan, get after it.
Let's do it, my friend. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you guys next week on the Lead Different podcast. Thank you for being on the show, Raul.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.